Welcome to the podcast, guys, with Rob and Nando. Before we get into today's topic, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the notification button, and follow along as we give you some great things that we have coming for you. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at the podcast guys _, on TikTok, the podcast guys _, the podcast guys 5 on X, and on Rumble. We are making our way on there more and more, the podcast guys _. So today's topic is an interesting one. It's not one that's always mentioned out there, but shall it be mentioned? Relationship contracts. Now, we're talking about this topic because we don't see this too often. You know, people get into relationships, they start talking, the talking stage. Let's start from the beginning there, actually. First people meet, man and woman meets. Could be out at the mall, at a bar, at a club, in the supermarket, in the library, wherever. They meet, they start talking, they hit it out of the ballpark, both of them, and they want to keep going. So they eventually get into the talking stage, and then it may get more serious. They get to the point where they want to get into a relationship. And that's where these relationship contracts come in, if they're used. Now, should there be a relationship contract?
This is an interesting one because people never really talk about this or refer to it as a contract, but there has always been in the past a contract between men and women, and it's basically the agreement that the man provided housing, he was the father, protected the family, put food on the table, and in return the woman was the mother of the kids, took care of the house, cooked, cleaned, so on and so forth. That contract is long gone. That's poof, gone. Like you only see that like in movies nowadays. Like most relationships don't operate under those same terms and conditions anymore. So this is going to be an interesting one to get into because let's talk about is there a contract nowadays between men and women? Should there be one? If there is, how does it work?
And this is a contract between non-married couples.
Correct.
You're married, it's totally different. We're talking about couples, boyfriend, girlfriend in a relationship. Just a binding contract written where both sides agree on terms and conditions that have to be followed within that contract. If not, the relationship can break apart because of it as a result.
Yeah, we're basically referring to under what rules, regulations, a mutual agreement is the relationship founded on. Because you can't just say you're dating or you're in a relationship and it's a free for all, or everyone just does, you figure it out as you go along. Everyone just acts the way they want to, which is the way it seems most of the time nowadays. So let's get into it.
So do you think there should be a relationship contract of some sort? Not a verbal one, right? Where
an unwritten contract, yeah.
If it's verbal, it's fine, but will people follow those verbal agreements? Because they're not written down, they're not binding. Where if it's written down, you're binded to the contract somehow.
In order for any relationship to work long term, there has to be some kind of, let's call it ground rules. We live in a modern world. This isn't 1950 anymore, so you can't, I guess, play by the same rules as we used to because it just won't work. Let's face it. But I think there has to be some basis for the relationship. There has to be certain lines you don't cross. There has to be certain things that you mutually follow and agree to.
Yeah. It seems like there's a confusion between who's responsible for what once you get into a relationship. So if there's some terms to be followed within a contract that's signed off, if a couple decides to go off and use a relationship contract, the first thing that should be on there as terms and conditions is that they should be supporting one another, communication, clear-cut communication, respect between one another, and really being open to each other's thoughts, each other's
Boundaries.
yeah, exactly. So, can you elaborate on how people could work that out between one another in a relationship?
Number one, like you just said, it has to be basically respect. Both the man and woman have to respect each other for any relationship to work. And unfortunately, nowadays, people are very quick to kind of like act disrespectfully. We've touched quite a few times on perfect example, a woman saying she's going to go to Miami, she's going to go on a girls trip. It's disrespectful behavior. You're now you're crossing the man's boundaries. You're doing something he doesn't want, and boom, right there, you're already causing a cavity that's eventually going to make the tooth fall out in the relationship. From the male side, could be similar, right? Don't do things that cross her boundaries. Maybe there's certain things she doesn't want you to do, or certain people she doesn't want you to hang out with. It's a mutual thing. We're not trying to make this one-sided.
This is a backbone of the relationship: respect, support for one another, trust and communication. Those are things that a relationship is created off of. If you don't have any of that, there is no relationship, period. And, people struggle to see that. And that's why relationships come and go. They come, and there's no respect, there's no support, there's no trust and communication by either party. We're not focused on any gender specific yet, but when that happens and it doesn't work out, then a relationship goes bye-bye. And if you want to prevent a relationship with someone that you really care about, that you really like, really love, whatever the case may be, then this is something that I would make sure is at least a ground rule. Maybe not go as far as a relationship contract, because with the contract, we're going pretty far, right? We're going deep and making sure that that person, man or woman, abide by these set of rules. And in this case, when it becomes, mutual respect, support, and trust and communication, etc., it's both sides. It's not one or the other that has to follow along with that. So another term and condition would be to respect. Let's get more into the respect of boundaries, but also personal privacy. And there tends to be a lot of miscommunication when it comes to what a man should know about their woman or what their woman should know about their man. Like, for instance, there shouldn't be any woman asking to go through a man's phone. I mean, that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And we could say the same thing about a guy asking a girl not to go through her phone, but sometimes it depends what the situation is.
You know what's a good way to look at it? Because I agree with you. The woman shouldn't look through the man's phone. The man shouldn't look through the woman's phone, unless it's a mutual agreement. Like, hey, we feel that maybe there's something that we should look further into. There's a possibility something's going on. There's TikTokers that do this. Let's switch phones. You look through mine, I look through yours. Boom.
Yep.
Other than that, don't look at it at all.
That's what I was going to say. Like, if there's some sort of suspicion, that's fine. You might suspect that your woman is doing something on the side, maybe cheating, right? But at the same time, the man is going to have to do it as well and show his phone. So it'll be both sides. I think that's fair, right?
Yes, it is.
We're trying to be fair for both parties. So it's funny, though, because in those TikToks, because I've seen those too,
they catch cheating.
You catch cheating, and
yeah.
it's mostly the girl.
Yeah.
Mostly the girl cheating, responding to a text message that
I've seen those.
may be unwanted, but really deep down it is wanted. And, again, I don't know if it's a fake setup, because sometimes it's a little too good to be true that
yeah, it could be, some of them could be set up.
they're just switching phones like that, like out of nowhere after, possibly being together for a year, 2, 10 maybe, and they all of a sudden switch phones right there. I mean, you're going to see all the history that
I'll tell you,
both have.
The problem is women are slick. Like, in those videos, they do it right on the spot so the woman doesn't have a chance to delete anything. These broads are slick. I know what they do. They delete their history. They change the names of contacts. Pizza Hut will call them at 3 a.m. They know what they're doing. I think when it comes to that part of it, women are far more slick than men are. Like, men will like hide certain things or like delete their last couple texts or something, but they will thoroughly clean that phone out. Trust me.
Yeah, who knows? They might even use a woman's name to show that it's a girl texting them. They may use like a Katie or an Emily.
If they are cheating, they will save the guy's name as a different contact, and they will even tell the guy, do not contact me until I text you first, or don't text me between this and this hours. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, she'll try to set some extra rules and take it further, but no man should let that happen. You know, the agreement's the agreement.
That's why if you're going to switch the phones, it's got to be done like, let's do this now. You're talking about it, let's do it now. Not like she can't know that you're going to look at it through each other's phones in an hour from now, because she's
Right.
going to...
Everything would be gone by then.
Yeah.
Long gone.
And then she's going to gaslight you and say, see, you had no reason to be who you were. I told you I wasn't doing anything.
And there goes the trust and communication out the window
Mm-hmm.
right there. Another thing that should be written in that relationship contract, or could be a ground rule, because again, we know that many folks out there, the majority, won't have an actual written contract just to be boyfriend and girlfriend. When it comes to marriage, that's something else. You know, you're talking about a prenup and more, but just for a basic boyfriend girlfriend, whether you're planning on being together for a long time. I mean, that's the hope, to be together for a long time, to eventually grow into something. But another term would be exclusivity.
Yep.
Being exclusive or in an open relationship. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one, because we hear a lot nowadays where, okay, if they're in an open relationship, are they both open? Is one side open? Is, for example, the woman open and the guy closed, which would be terrible because that'd be simping right there. Or would the man be open but the woman be closed? And it's controversial because usually it goes where the man is open but the woman is not. Now, hear us out, because when men sleep around with another woman, it seems to be cheating, and it is if you don't let her know, right? But if you have this contract and you're putting it out there, and you are of value, you know, you have to be of a certain status too. You have to be high value in that case. If you have all the bells and whistles there, then you have the ability to be open. Not as many men are open or have the ability to be open on their end and have her be closed. I mean, if he's open, usually she's open. Usually that's how it works. But there's a very controversial stance out there where men are open and women are closed. What do you
You know why
thoughts
so
on that?
many guys want their girlfriend to delete their Instagram, or at least delete all their pictures? Because men directly hit on women through Instagram. The opposite isn't really true. If a man, let's just say two people are dating, the guy says, look, you can keep your Instagram, but you're deleting all your photos. But he keeps all his photos. The chances that that guy's going to get hit on or like DM'd by girls is slim to none. I mean, unless this guy's like incredibly good looking or famous or something, women don't really hit on. If you were to look at a guy's Instagram DMs, there's going to be nothing there, just a couple friends or something like that. Women, it's completely different. When a woman has an Instagram, she can have a couple basic photos. She's going to be getting DMs left and right, fire emojis, because and this has been said so many times, and it's the absolute truth. When a woman has an Instagram and she has her pictures of herself, even if it's not necessarily bikinis, like they could just be like regular photos in jeans or something, she's advertising herself. That's how men see it. It's a target.
Absolutely. Women are going to be hit on.
Yep.
Men,
Not really.
not really. Maybe the
Small
small percent of high value men, that are up there in status. They have game, they have money, all that stuff.
The man's not really jeopardizing the relationship by having an Instagram, because most guys, I promise you, are not getting hit on through Instagram.
Exactly. And the thing is that women open up to men emotionally. So if they have an Instagram, they have a chance to make a connection by a man reaching out, and then she's entertaining that. And when she's entertaining that, you can consider that cheating right off the bat.
Yep.
So being in an open relationship, you really have to make sure that that ground rule is set from the beginning, whether it's verbal or written. Again, verbal agreements, you can't really hold somebody to them, because if it's just you two making that verbal agreement, she can go around and say that, oh, you weren't supposed to be open. We didn't agree to that when you actually spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, women will turn things around on men.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, yeah, I may have said that, but I changed my mind. Or even though they said it and they agreed upon it verbally, they'll say, oh, well, no, I don't remember that. Or that's not the case. So they'll change it. They'll lie to make it benefit them. Who knows what they're trying to do when they first agree to being open and then not later on. But usually it works out when there's an exclusive relationship. It works out, has a better chance of holding together versus an open relationship, because in an open relationship, there's more of an ability to cheat.
That type of stuff should be definitely set from day one, those expectations, because there's going to be no disagreements later. And you're right, women will sometimes try to gaslight you and like, oh, well, that's not what I said. That's not what you said. They try to like twist things around. But look, if you speak about it and you agree to it you set those expectations from square one, it reduces the chance of there being any disagreement later.
That's right. And guys, don't forget, we're giving you the goods here. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we are going to give you so much more you won't even realize that it'd be possible for us to do that. I wonder how much people believe in us. I hope they do, because we're going hard here and we're not stopping. So the next thing in the terms and conditions of a verbal or nonverbal relationship contract is the living situation. Now, this is interesting also because, they all are interesting in their own way. But this one's a little bit more fascinating, because in a living situation, you get to know each other. If you live together, you get to know each other a bit more. And some people realize, well, this relationship is not going to get any better, so they end up breaking off because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn a lot about each other. Sometimes even if you don't live together, but if you take a vacation together and you're away with each other for a week and a half or two, even a few days, and you learn about each other. I'm sure I know people that live together and, they butt heads a lot. There's people that make it work somehow, even though they may be butting heads behind the scenes. You can't tell unless they're doing it behind closed doors. But the living situation is an interesting one. What's your take on a couple living together versus not living together?
I think living separate, honestly, truthfully, is the best way to play it. I had a scenario once in my life where I dated this girl for a year. The moment we moved in together, we broke up 2 months later. And that was my first experience with what it's like to move in, because I don't care how good the relationship is going together. Once you move in, you're in each other's face 24/7. Think about it. When you're dating a girl, and you only see her like when you're going on a date or when you hang out, at the end of the day, she goes home, you go back to your place, boom, it's done. But when she's there, remember, you're going to be around her when she's in a bad mood, a good mood. Maybe some certain days you're not feeling it. You don't want to deal with her shit. And I'm telling you, it's just like a brewing ground for arguments and problems. I think men and women should stay separate. It's going to save your relationship. You move in when you have to, when you have kids and you plan on raising kids and you have to live together at that point. I would hold off on it.
I agree. Separate is better. There's a lot of problems when you're together. Think about it. Expenses. Who's going to pay for what? Is the man going to work and she's going to work and the man's going to pay for everything, including her expenses, her hair, her nails, her makeup, her clothes, her rent, the water bill, hot water bill, the electricity, the gas, food. Is she going to contribute anything? I mean, she is working, but is she going to take that money and just use it on herself for whatever she likes to get that he won't get for her?
You know what's interesting about this is that generally women have this kind of attitude now where they're like, either a man pays my bills or I'm staying single and paying my own bills, but I'm not going 50-50. And I'm like, hold up, like what? Like, so you would rather either pay all your bills by yourself or have a man pay all your bills, nothing in between? Like, you won't. It's very illogical to me, because if you're dating a guy, look, I'm not saying you should go 50-50 right down the middle, but if the woman should contribute to something, like the guy's paying the rent, for example, maybe cover the PS&G or like buy little shit for the house, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like necessities for the house. But like just expecting the guy to pay all or nothing. Another reason, like you said, another reason to keep it separate. She wants to play it like that. Women want to have that attitude. All right, stay in your own apartment, pay your own shit.
That's what's confusing as hell. Like,
it is.
She wants to be a boss babe. She's making a lot of money, but she wants a guy to get with her and pay for everything.
I hear that a lot from women. They're like, I'm not going 50-50. Either the guy pays everything or I'm staying single and paying my own bills anyway. I'm like, all right.
I mean, it makes sense if the guy's taking her out on a date, things like that, taking her out for events.
Yeah.
We're talking about, because we know there's going to be women up in arms. Yeah, my man should take care of me. But you're living together. So now it's a whole different world. So it should definitely be some sort of mutual agreement about at least who's going to pay what. Even if the guy pays a little bit more because he's the guy and women say, oh, the man's got to take care of the bills, the finances. Fine, that is true. Men lead, women follow. Men take care of the finances. But if the woman is not taking care of everything around the house, then she should be contributing as well.
100%. And that's why I never understood that mentality. Like, oh, well, the guy should pay for everything and do everything. And like, they kind of, it's almost like, oh, once a man's involved, the woman is just freed of all responsibility and expectations. She's all taken care of by the man now. Like, just whatever.
Ridiculous. Now that's going to lead us into the next term and condition, which is they're not living together, but income. Whether they should share income or it should be to each their own. What do you think about that? They both work. They make money. Should they make money and have it separate, or should they have it together?
So that's another interesting one, because women always say, my money is my money and your money is our money, right? That's how it tends to go. Like, the woman expects to make her own money and spend her own money, but she also expects you to make money and to spend your money. And she's going to lead with yours.
Shouldn't be that way.
No. So we talked about the beginning of this episode, how like the contract between men and women kind of changed. The old school stuff is kind of gone. I think men and women should keep their finances completely separate. Most men, if you're dating, even if you get married, God forbid, don't do no joint bank accounts or anything like that. I think the best thing to do is keep it separate. And I'll even take it a step further. I think you should have your money in a few different bank accounts and never let her know exactly how much you have. No matter how little or how much, never let her know, like, oh, I have a total of this amount. No.
That's what I was going to say. You never let her know what's in your bank account.
Nope.
Never.
Nope.
And that's to protect yourself, because who knows what can happen down the line.
Perfect example, since we're on this topic, Patrick Bet-David, he was on a podcast. He said that he allocates a certain, well, he's wealthy. He's, most men aren't going to have the same amount of money as him, but just a prime example of a successful guy. He allocates a certain amount of money to his wife and says, this is your money. You spend it however you want, but the moment you go over that, don't ask me for $1 more. Boom.
Yeah.
And he keeps the rest of his money separate.
PBD's doing a great job.
Smart way to play it.
He's a successful man, leading by example, showing the guys out there how it's done. And unfortunately, a lot of guys aren't following one of the many methods that PBD has on how to be the man, be the masculine man, and even PBD amongst high value men. I'd say he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Taking care of things around the house and just his life on the side, because he's a businessman. He's a busy guy.
It's a smart way to play it, because he understands, like, he's a wealthy guy. His wife is with him for a reason. he doesn't want to say to his wife, well, I'm not giving you any money because that's not going to fly by her part, right? So he said to her, okay, I'm going to give you a certain amount every month, but how you spend it is up to you. You spend that money, you're not getting any more till the next month, and that's it. And then that way they're forced to kind of like budget, because if you just give a woman, here's my credit card, spend it however you want, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we close out soon, I want to mention an honorable mention of a term and condition that I wasn't going to say, but it is important. And it's intimacy. Intimacy within the relationship. Maybe not exactly the time and date where you're going to be intimate, have sex, etc. But at least a certain amount of times, something along the lines that there's going to be intimacy, because a relationship without intimacy is a relationship that will dry up quicker than anything that we know. So what's your take on that?
I think there's certain expectations from both the male and female side. How you decide to discuss it or talk about it is entirely up to you, but I think it's another thing that has to be kind of like talked about, set certain like expectations, at least on a very basic level, because again, how many relationships fall apart or how much cheating happens because later like the needs aren't met and then people just go off and cheat.
I mean, for ladies out there, if you're not intimate with your man, you're going to have a hard time keeping him because he's going to look for intimacy somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. It's just what it is. And women don't realize that they make the mistake of not being intimate or being intimate very seldom, not enough, very inconsistent once in a while when she feels like it. I mean, if he's leading, if he's taking care of you, and if he's putting in at least the majority of the finances, maybe you're contributing, nothing wrong with that, even though, of course, typically the guy takes care of you, but you're taking care of the household. If that's not the case, then, you're contributing a little bit because you're not as much, regulated to the household. Nowadays in 2024 doesn't happen as often. So bottom line is there has to be intimacy involved. If there's none, there's no relationship. There's no relationship.
Yeah. And another good thing to talk about at some point is when you start dating, because again, if you don't talk about it or discuss it, again, it could be a miscommunication and it just won't happen the way you want it to.
Yeah, guys. So as we wrap up here, comment below. Let us know what you think about relationship contracts. Should they come back into play? Should a couple that's talking and then decides to get into a relationship, become boyfriend, girlfriend, have some sort of contract? Or should it be more of a verbal agreement where there's some ground rules, and then if those ground rules aren't followed, then the relationship goes away, disappears, and you move on to other people? I think it's very important to sit down with one another, understand what each other's wants and needs are before a relationship in order for you to lead into a future successful relationship. I think that's huge. So to wrap up, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Rumble, the Podcast Guys _ the Podcast Guys 5 on X. We have some special shows coming up. Don't miss out. Peace.